The French Association, A Heart for Peace, has been helping Palestinian children with congenital heart disease to undergo heart surgery at Hadassah Hospital, an Israeli hospital in Jerusalem. The Solemnity of Our Lady of Mount Carmel was celebrated at STELLA MARIS, a meeting point between the Old and the New Covenants. The rediscovery of Star Street in the city of Bethlehem, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. On July 19th, the Maronite Church of the Holy Land celebrated the feast of Saint Charbel in the city of Isefia on Mount Carmel. Hayat is 5 months old. She underwent heart surgery last week. Her parents have spoken with several doctors before consulting Dr. Ibrahim Abu Zahir in Hebron. The diagnosis is clear. Hayat suffers from a heart defect. The child is then transferred and undergoes heart surgery at Hadassah Hospital of Jerusalem by the Israeli surgeon Eldad Erez. At her arrival, Hayat weighed only 2.3 kilograms. 9 days after the surgery, she gained 600 grams and regained strength, a reason for joy for her parents and for the doctors and nurses who cared for her. The first day was hard. It was hard to see my daughter in these conditions. Thank God we know she is fine now. We are very happy and grateful to God. Hayat's health is well now, thanks to the mission of A Heart for Peace. Since 2005, the French Association helps Palestinian children with congenital heart defects to receive treatment free of charge at Hadassah Hospital. A few French doctors and I had come to see what the situation was with regard to Israeli medical system, and on that occasion we met Professor Rain, who explained the need for a cardiac surgery department for children, because one did not exist in the West Bank or Gaza. He informed us that he was also operating on a number of Palestinian children. I asked him how we could help, and that's how it all started. He said I need to do one more child surgery per week. We went back to France and we created the association. Thus we operated on the first child in September of that year. Since then, we perform more than 1 heart surgeries per week. We have performed over 600 heart surgeries on children with heart problems. The children are always accompanied by their parents. Once the diagnosis is made in either medical center in Hebron or Ramallah, Palestinian and Israeli doctors decide together whether to transfer the child to the Hadassah Hospital. Everything has changed very much 10 years ago. There were mothers who were traveling to Israel for the first time. They had heard terrible things about Israel. A sick child is already a very big concern. A child with a sick heart is even more alarming, and bringing him to the so-called enemy's hospital for treatment is very worrying. However, after their trip to Israel, finally becoming aware of their children's recovery, and also realizing that they indeed received the same care without any distinction.
Generally, so far, I have only had positive reactions from the families, because they know me very well now and they trust me. And I can finally say that, medically speaking, there are very good relationships between the Palestinian and Israeli doctors.
Since its founding in 1912, the Hadassah Medical Center is designed to treat all people, regardless of their religion or nationality. A Heart for Peace has the goal of developing cooperation between the Israeli and Palestinian populations.
We live in the same land. We, Israelis and Palestinians, live and have always lived in the same land. Basically, we're not interested in the political and military issues. They are really beyond our lives. In reality, our common enemy is disease.
The second component of A Heart for Peace is educational. Since 2005, 197 Palestinians, general medicine doctors, have been trained on heart disease. 2 consultation centers in Ramallah and Hebron also opened. At last, these children will be treated and cared for at home in the West Bank. Hayat and her parents will leave the hospital once her condition stabilizes. This is the 609th child who had heart surgery.
Many beautiful stories, much happiness to these families, and this is what makes us happy.
We have seen this father smiling and this mother smiling as well. They go back home with a healthy child. They know we will continue to follow up on their children's health. They know she's out of danger. That's how we build trust, and trust is what we really need.
Oui, mais parce que الشباك وقال لي يا نونو.
Dios te salve María del Carmel.
The sanctuary of Stella Maris is a meeting point between the Old and the New Covenants. The spiritual heritage of the prophet Elijah was made a reality in the 12th century when St. Albert, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, gave a group of men a new rule based on the life of contemplation and solitude. In 1562, under the guidance of St. Teresa of Jesus, the order of Discalced Carmelites was reformed and the first convents were founded. Their rule brought them back to a life centered on God in simplicity, poverty and silence, as was customary for the first hermits on Mount Carmel in Haifa. The Solemnity of Our Lady of Mount Carmel is celebrated on July the 16th. According to tradition, it was on this day, in 1251, that the Virgin Mary appeared in England to St. Simon Stock, to whom she entrusted the scapula of Mount Carmel. The Eucharistic celebration of this feast is held every year in Haifa at the sanctuary of Stella Maris. Bishops Marcuzzo and Musa al-Hajj were present for the occasion, as well as Father Francesco Maria Shamich, the pastor of Cana in Galilee, along with some local faithful and pilgrims from around the world. We came here today to the top of this mountain to honor the Virgin Mary, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. This feast is at the same time also considered a social, religious and spiritual tradition. It is here, on this holy mountain, that we celebrate the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, a very old tradition kept by the order of the Carmelites.
شو بالنسبة لي هذا الاحتفال زي ما حكى.
This celebration, as the bishop said during Mass, is the first that we have had since the canonization of Saint Maryam Bawardi, an example of silence, solitude, and monastic life. And, as the pastor said in his homily, we must lift our hearts and minds to heaven in order to learn more about life in silence and solitude.
وين في صمت وخلوة غاد ربنا هو اللي بيملك.
اليوم هو عيد من يوم اللي هو تسعية العذراء.
Before this celebration, we came here to the monastery of St. Elias, where we prayed a novena to the Blessed Virgin. Every day at 5:30, we gathered to pray the Rosary and celebrate the Eucharist. Yesterday, we attended the procession and received the traditional habit of the Virgin Mary, whom we honor with great devotion.
This is an annual feast that I have always attended in this same place. I came to thank the Virgin Mary, especially because I can wear the tradition habit of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. I have known this feast since childhood, but I did not understand the meaning. I thank the Virgin Mary for everything.
At the end of the celebration, the faithful who were present were able to share their experiences at a social gathering in the convent. Star Street is a particular road that runs through the old city of Bethlehem. About 1 kilometer long, it was included in the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites in 2012 as a path for pilgrims. A gateway rich in history and culture that starts at the roundabout of the headquarters of the Azione Cattolica and ends at the Zarara Arch, also known by the locals as the Damascus Gate, a formal and ancient entrance to the city. According to the Christian tradition, this road was taken by the Holy Family when they arrived in the city of Bethlehem for Jesus' birth. There were restaurants here. There was also a carpentry shop, 2 laboratories that belonged to the Bandak and the Mayaya families, as well as olive wood workshops. All looked out onto this road. Since the days of the Bethlehem 2000 project, however, the road has been closed. Now people go elsewhere and avoid this path. Every now and then the Chamber of Commerce and the city try to revive the road, and that's when we can see some action for a couple of days. But then everything goes back to the way it was before. There are over 120 stores here that are closed for the most part, while in the past they all used to be open. This path has had several nicknames over time. The Road of the Patriarchs, because the traditional procession passes through it every year on Christmas Eve. Tarajme route, which means translators in Arabic, because many inhabitants of the city are tour guides for pilgrims. That's their profession. A path that presents a rather traditional architecture, complete with decorative elements and writings characterized by religious motifs.
وهذا من أقدم الشوارع من زمانات.
This is the oldest street in the city. The Pope and the patriarchs have passed through this road on the occasion of the celebrations. We also saw the wedding processions here. Today it has become the road of a ghost town.
I've lived on this road since 1951 when I got married. It was full of people at that time. There were carpenters and blacksmiths and many cafes. The street was the vital center of the city because it was the main street of the Church of Nativity.
Steep stairways that lead into small courtyards overlook this historic road. Just one of these courtyards has recently been refurbished as part of a project to revitalize this part of the road, once very active and lively.
The street needs many things to bring it back to life. And having an icon school in itself brings in students, it gives a sense of life. It's a vision of what Palestine is really about, its spiritual hegemony. There's a lot of concentration on trying to do business, but there's lots of business. But people come here for one reason, really, and that's because of the church, because they're pilgrims. They come because of their love for Jesus Christ. And we really need to invest in making sure that there are facilities and resources which really meet those needs.
The Maronite Church is celebrating St. Charbel. Hundreds of faithful from all over the parishes in the Holy Land have gathered on Mount Carmel at the parish of Isefia, the only one on the territory that bears his name. St. Charbel, a Lebanese hermit monk from the 1800s, is known for his example in prayer and holiness. Revered by Christians and Muslims, he has thousands of devotees here in the Middle East. A multitude of faithful attended the Eucharistic celebration presided over by His Excellency Monsignor Musa al-Hajj, Archbishop of Haifa and of the Holy Land for the Maronite community, along with numerous priests and deacons. In his homily, the Archbishop stressed the importance of the spiritual figure of St. Charbel.
تمكن الأب شربل من المساهمة في هذا التحول البطيء.
Saint Charbel contributed to this slow change from non-perfection to perfection.
تحمل جذوره. لقد استطاع أن ينأى بنفسه عن تاريخ العالم.
He was able to isolate himself from the world during a difficult historical period that no incident could affect his life. Everything that was said about him, all the signs and miracles that surrounded him in life and after his death, are God's miracles through his person.
قيل عنه وكل المعجزات التي اجترحها في حياته وبعد مماته هي عجائب الله من خلاله.
They are the expression of a profound truth and his deep union with God, which was manifested in the silence of his life and in the words that he left after his death.
تجلى صمتا في حياته وكلاما بعد مماته.
The community of Isefia, despite being small, welcomes thousands of faithful who come from Galilee and from the Holy Land to witness their love for the saint.
رعية مار شربل تأسست من زمان ولكن الكنيسة أساسها كان أول حاجة.
This church is from 1971. It was therefore recently built, but this parish has existed for centuries. The desire for this church came from the late Monsignor Yusuf Khouri. It was consecrated in 1987 after its construction was completed.
سنة 1987.
From that moment on, the light of St. Charbel began shining on Galilee and the entire Holy Land, from north to south. St. Charbel was very much loved for his works and prayers. Despite the few parishioners, 160 in total, there are many worshippers who are honored to visit this church. They come to ask for the intercession of St. Charbel and God's glory.
من عمله وصلاته مثل ما بيقولوا إنه انغرس في أرض جيدة وبعده بأرض جيدة.
Celebrating the feast of St. Charbel is part of an atmosphere of piety and devotion that accompanies the prayers of the faithful and those who make their own vows and those who dress their children in the same attire that the Lebanese monk would wear. Son Charbel's attire is from Lebanon. My parents sewed it and sent it to me. My mother is Lebanese and she made it in my grandmother's house, so we decided to dress the children with the saint's attire. On such an important date, everyone flocks from every region of the country to ask this great saint for a favor or a miracle.
المزار هذا مش بس للموارنة، هون مزار عم بيتحول لكل الأراضي المقدسة، إن كان مش بس مسيحيين، دروز وإسلام.
This church is not only for the Maronites, but for the entire Holy Land. It's not just for Christians, but also for Muslims and Druze. Believers come from all parts of the country to ask for miracles, from Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Ramallah, Jaffa, Fasuta, Horfesh, Melia, and from all Galilee. Many miracles happen here, and they are documented. A patient suffering from intestinal cancer, for example, was miraculously healed, and so many people tell of their intimate relationship with Saint Charbel. They talk about his apparitions, the healings, and the signs that they receive from the saint.
هلا يدرسوا كمان أعجوبة شفائه لحتى يتأكدوا منها. كتير عجائب عم يصير، الناس تيجي بتخبرنا من كل المناطق قديش مار شربل حاضر بحياتهم، إن كان بيظهر لهم بالحلم أو بالعلم أو يعطيهم إشارات.
We are here to tell you about the Holy Land, to raise awareness and visibility of the Mother Church of Jerusalem, local Christians, and holy places. We are here to tell so many forgotten stories of daily efforts, courage, and faith. We are here to promote hope in the land of God. Support those who give a voice to custody of the Holy Land's work.